Welcome to Tabletop Gaming with Juice. Today, this is hashtag my 30-day world. And this is day 4. Today's question is, who is the most renowned hero in your world? Because of all the major catastrophic events in my world, there's been quite a few major heroes in my world. And I like just a lot. But today I want to focus on a player group that we played a few sessions. We didn't finish the campaign, but I still used their characters in other games to further the story. And it was my family game in Grand Rapids. It was my wife, my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and then my brother-in-law's brother-in-law and his wife. 5 players. So we had Adria, who was a half-elf sorcerer. By the way, this party got up to level 5. So again, we played a few sessions. We didn't finish the campaign, but it was a lot of fun. Everybody was chaotic, pretty much. So that was kind of interesting. But, so anyways, my wife, Paula, she played a character named Adria, who was a half-elf sorcerer. I clearly remember her doing some really cool spells, such as there was a time we were fighting a bunch of bullywugs in a river, and she did I don't remember exactly which spell, but it was a lightning bolt into the water, so I said, yeah, you deal the damage to all of them, because I like to reward creative stuff. My sister-in-law, her name is Erica. She was playing Alea, who was a human cleric of life, and she played the very stereotypical good cleric who wouldn't kill anything, or wouldn't try to kill anything, tried to play a good character, ultimately. And I think she had a lot of fun. I think, in fact, she used to play 2nd edition, and I remember after a lot of sessions, she'd be like, wow, I didn't know I could do this, and I didn't know I could be an offensive weapon, so that was cool. And I'll get into why these are the most heroic characters in my campaign in a minute. Then there was my brother-in-law, Andrew, Erica's husband, and he played a human fighter. I believe he was a battle master, and his character's name was Arthur Den Dragon. That's what it was. Instead of Pendragon? No. Yeah, Den Dragon. That's what it was. He played neutral good, but he didn't stick to that. He was more chaotic. There was a time where some people were passing by, and it was going pretty peaceful, and he decided to take a hammer and smash their wheel or something for no reason, and it led to a fight, and it led to an out-of-character fight, too. It was very tense, but it was cool. I think he had a lot of fun, too, because normally he's the DM for the family games. Then his sister-in-law, Patty, played a half-orc fighter named Kyla, and that was interesting, too. So, I mean, what can you say? I mean, she's a half-orc, great weapon fighter, pretty much. So that was interesting. Then we had her husband, Andrew's brother-in-law, Dustin, Erica's brother, and his character name was Throsalon. He was a high elf wizard. I remember he got a magic item. I was doing these Secret Santa or White Elephant magical items for our group, and he ended up with a helmet that made his head invisible, but the rest of him was still visible. He hated that, but it was funny. I remember him doing a lot of cool stuff too. Some area of effect things. Magic missile came in extremely handy multiple times. But yeah. So anyways, that's the group. Now, that group started the campaign, and they solved the mystery of the Black Hand. Mystery of the Black Hand was a necromancer who was going into a town, into, what was my city's name? I can't remember. I don't know. I'll look it up later. But he was going into this city, and when he would go into it, it'd be at night. And what he would do is he would cast silence on a house. He would then go in, or at least on a room of the house where his victim would be. He would then go into the house and cut their hands off, and basically make them bleed out until they died. Then he would reanimate them as a zombie. And these zombies, he would have them just walk back to his lair, which was a cave in the mountains. And before he would leave every house, he would put a lot of dirt on his hand. Actually, I think he actually used a black tar that this was kind of a way for me to get the players to go fight goblins before they fought him. A black tar from the goblin tar pits nearby. And he would put it on every door of his victims. And so it became the mystery of the Black Hand. And so when he would do it, boom. Players ended up going in, finding him eventually. I mean, it was a couple sessions in. But they eventually found him in the caves and went through his lair, fought a bunch of zombies. There's like rooms with chained up zombies that don't have hands, things like that. There's zombies lurking outside in the wilderness nearby. And he had some stray zombies that just went and did their own thing. And then in the room I think it was right before the necromancer, there were chests. 2 chests, I believe. Maybe 1, I can't remember exactly. But when they went to open the chests, a bunch of these hands were animated and came out and attacked the players. In fact, I took a bunch of really tiny D6s and just went, and I said, you just got attacked by a swarm of hands, animated hands. Also, the chest was a mimic, and it was just holding these hands. So they had to fight a bunch of hands, they had to fight the mimic, and then in this time, that allowed the necromancer to retreat on his skeletal horse. It was awesome. Players, that was probably one of the better sessions in that campaign. They also then went, and when they returned to the town, it had been under attack by dragon cultists, which this is where I took a little bit from Horde of the Dragon Queen, ran some things from there, and then they went into the mountains and they fought them. They ended up getting to a temple of Tiamat, an abandoned temple of Tiamat. I think it was abandoned. Yeah, it was abandoned. And then they were working their way towards through a bunch of caves. They fought mind flayers, I believe. They fought all sorts of stuff in these caves. Now I know they're level 5. Mind flayers are probably more powerful than that. I don't remember exactly, but they fought mostly intellect devourers, drow, zombies, bugbears, orcs, goblins, all through it's the Valley of the Endless Caves. And a mind flayer, they found a dead Githyanki who had his sword laying there, which I believe they picked that up. They found a dead purple worm in a cave near that. They fought a manticore. Just a bunch of stuff through these caves. The last session we had, it ended with them at the base of a bunch of steps to a dwarven city. And there were dragons flying overhead attacking this dwarven city. Just north of there is the forest of, I think it's called Neverbright. And so I had plans for how that, they were obviously going to meet with the dwarves because that was the city they were trying to get to anyway. And then, hopefully they were going to adventure in Neverbright. That was my plan. They had only stumbled across 2 of the 8 pillars of death in this. There were seeds planted for some of the other pillars, but we never got that far. Anyways, so that's where that campaign ended. Then, when we moved to the Ann Arbor area, to where I currently live, we had another group that was, it was my friend Matt, Rob, my friend Dominic from work, my wife, and then when Dominic dropped out, we picked up my friend Finch, and then he eventually dropped too, so we were just down to 3 of us really. I think one time Andre came or was going to play with us and didn't, but we picked up that same area of the world, but I think it was 70 or 80 years in the future, because I wanted to finish telling my story about the 8 Pillars of Death. So what I did is I said that these heroes that I had talked about earlier, that I have on my little prep sheet, my DM prep sheet, which you can find over on rpgjuice.com. Go to downloads and look at game aids. I think it's under that. And it's a campaign sheet. Has all your information about player characters, so you don't have to have copies of their sheets. But anyways, so we had... I told him that the story about the 8 Pillars of Death, and in the main city, Stonehall Keep, they had statues of all of these characters. Now, I had... and it was funny because obviously none of the players knew these characters, but my wife did. And my wife was like, ah. And so then I said, you guys know these characters as the heroes who prevented the 8 Pillars of Death from rising to their full power 70 years before. They delivered the treaties. A bunch, all the kingdoms rose up to fight off these things. And since then, most of them went back to their, after they fought this evil off, most cities and kingdoms went back to their routine lives. Some haven't been heard of since, and so on. And so then it set up, okay, well, what's happened in 70 years? But the thing they had to deal with is this. They didn't know it yet, but these 8 Pillars of Death were not completely extinguished. But the cool part was just telling the story of why the statues were there. And so in my world right now, these 5 heroes from the original Mystery of the Black Hand, which then became the 8 Pillars of Death, they were, in my world, the most prominent, most known heroes. Maybe not everywhere, but at least on this continent and the surrounding areas. In other parts of my world, I had explained that there had been heroes who had stood up to the god rebuilt in thousands of years in the past. But most of them have been forgotten. Their names had been forgotten because it had been so long ago. So I did that. So I have a lot of heroes, but my favorite ones, and I know that doesn't really fit the question, is this gaming group that I didn't finish the campaign, but I made their characters legends in my world. That was pretty cool. So I enjoyed telling that story in that game. I enjoyed, kind of explaining what I envisioned happened after that campaign ended, and they seemed to like it. The players seemed to dig it. Because I like epic tales, it made sense. It was fun to tell. My wife liked it. My wife liked hearing about her character. There was... In fact, I think I had hinted that my wife's character and Throsalon were still alive. I think I hinted at that. I may have hinted that a third, which may have been the Cleric of Life, was still alive as well. And I'm not sure if I had it happen or if I was planning on it happening, but either my wife's character, the high elf, or the half elf, or the wizard, the high elf, was going to be an NPC that they were going to come across. I don't think I did it, but I was definitely planning on it, and I thought that would have been cool. It's probably best that it didn't, but, I thought it would have been awesome. So that's it. That is my video on who are your most renowned heroes. I'm probably going to film a couple more of these. You'll see them on the days they're supposed to be released. But yeah, that's that. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.